So for our second video on charades, we got to the point where we did initialize global word list. We got our 10 things in there. Your 10 should not be the same as my 10. But now what we need to do is make it so that if we shake our tablet, it's going to change the word and give us a point. To do that, we have to go back to our designer view, come over here to our sensors, and we have to add an accelerometer. The accelerometer is invisible, so it doesn't really matter where we drop it on the screen because it comes down here anyway. When we add the accelerometer, we don't need to change any of these things, but we're gonna go back into blocks. I'm gonna go back to an empty space. And I'm gonna come over here and scroll down to my accelerometer sensor. And I'm gonna say when the accelerometer is shaking, so it's the second one down, pull that onto my screen. If we think through this out loud and logically of what we want to happen, I want, when I shake my accelerometer, I want it to give me a point, and I want it to change my word that shows up in this list. And I want it to be random. I don't really want it to go in order. So the first thing I'm going to do is build my score code that tells it to give me a point. That's going to be back here under variables, where I say set my global score. And then I'm going to use a math block with the plus sign. And I'm going to tell it to go get the global score that it currently has and add 1 point to it. If I don't tell it to get the global score first, it's just going to be a constant score of 1. It's never going to add to it again. Then, since this is background code, I also need it to show on my screen. So then, I'm going to find my score label, and I'm going to say set score label text. Dark green. Throw that in there. And then I need to tell it to join two things together. I'm going to join together my number of correct guesses, which is a text box, and I'm going to spell it right. And then I'm also going to tell that one again to get my global score, which will be whatever the previous one was plus 1, because that's what this code tells it. Now I need it to make sure that it also changes the word from up here. To do that, I need to get my phrase to change by doing a set item label. Because remember, in our designer, when we were going through these, the item label is this box. That's where our word's going to show up. That's how we know it's called item label. So in these, I'm going to come over here. I'm going to choose item label. And I'm going to say set item label text to. And I need to go find it from my list. So I'm going to go up to my lists, and I want it to be random, right? So I'm going to go and find the one that says pick a random item. And then I have to tell it which list to pick from. And that's my variable. So I'm going to say get my global word list. And then I'm going to reconnect my tablet. Make sure I'm still connected. So that now, if I if I shake, because I'm on the accelerometer, it should have popped up. I think I'm not actually connected. We'll try that again in a minute. We're going to do one more piece of code first. So on here, we also need to use this button, the click here for word or phrase. We need to use that as like our start button. So I'm going to come over. There's my word phrase button. I'm going to pull that out. Kind of move it down here. When that button is clicked, I also want it to pick a random phrase. So I'm going to come up here to my word set, and I'm going to copy and paste that code. put it under my word phrase. So now, when I go to my tablet, I can click here for word or phrase, and it's going to change it to something from my list every time. Now, it's not working on my phone because I forgot I turned my accelerometer off. It was messing with my Fitbit. But if you shake yours right now, it's going to work and change where my words are in pink. It'll change it to whatever is in your list. Last thing we need to do is tell it when to add and subtract a point. So right now we tell it if we shake the accelerometer to add a point. That's going to work. We also need to tell it that if I press that skip to next word or phrase button, that's going to take away a point. So I'm going to look up here, and I already have a skip button code. I'm going to bring that down, an empty spot, expand it. It's coded right now that if I hit that skip button, it's going to take away a point, but I also need that skip button to change my word. So again, I can just come up here, duplicate that code, and put it in there. So if I hit that skip button, it's going to make the word change and take away a point. If I shake it, it's going to add a point and give me a new word. So if we look at our game, right now, I know I need this button that starts my game, and it will also start my timer. I need this skip to next word or phrase button because that's going to make it so that if my partner's stuck, we can just go to the next word and we'll lose a point. Reset game sets my guesses to 0, puts my timer back to 30, and makes it so there is no word here in the middle. What your job is for the rest of this particular app is to make it so that I don't have extra buttons that I don't need to play my game. You'll know which ones those are because you can play your game without ever touching them. Make sure that you look back at our rubric that's in Canvas. It says pressing the word phrase button starts your timer and gives a word. The word appears in the middle of the screen. When you shake your device, the score goes up and the word changes. When you press the skip button, the score goes down and the word changes. Your reset button sets the score to 0 and puts your timer probably back to 30 and clears the word. Your timer counts down and shows up. Your score counts up and shows on the screen, and that all your redundant buttons are gone. For the extra credit, we said surprise us. This has to have something to do with code. It can't just be changing the colors on the screen. That could be things like you have a you win or a you lose screen based on high scores and timers running out. It could be something like instead of words showing up on the screen, yours is more like a Pictionary version where it has a picture that someone has to act out. Completely up to you. You just have to explain it to us to get the extra credit for it. If you have any questions, let us know. This is going to be due next class.